Okay, opening up the software opens up initially the home screen. Okay, now if you have connection to internet, this will actually display some information. I'm not on the internet right now, but you would actually have some online interaction you could do where you can actually watch videos on how to use the software. They have some PDF files you can download there. You can actually go to their website where they have a whole host of how-to videos, okay, on how to use the software. We also have some information up here which tells me what I'm running. I'm running Stitch Error Liberty Plus. Now, Stitch Error Liberty Plus allows me to have not only the digitizing software, but also hotfix. Okay? And I have a third option which allows me to create Spangle or sequin designs. Okay? That's just because we sell that machine too. The current version we're running is 11.40. The 11.40. And this is my serial number, my B code that came with your software. Okay, it came in that little card. Now, you do have to have the dongle key in to operate it, okay, because it is security based. It doesn't want to open up the software to just anybody that doesn't own a key. So it keeps those pirating people off the software, okay? Now, when a new update comes available from the interactive screen, you'll have a section here. You can't see here because, again, I'm off the internet. But you can read information about the new update, when it's going to be released and what it's going to do. Okay, when it becomes available, this will actually say update available, and you can click on it. The software will close down and update itself, and then you can open it back up and you've updated your software. Okay, it's that easy. Okay, we have the ability. This is who I am, this is the company I work for, and this is the email I register my product to. Okay, when you first install the software, you have up to 45 days of working the software before you have to activate it. Once, if you bypass that 45 days, then you'll have to download a new installation password, uninstall, and reinstall again. Okay, so you definitely want to activate it. That 45 days is a trial period. Do I like it? Do I not like it? That kind of thing. Okay, now once you activate it, you can see it detects what computer I activated on. Inside the registration form that you fill in, you have a computer name, and in the computer name, I'll name it Alan's laptop. And then if I'm activating on a second computer, I could send the name, your computer, whatever, you know what I mean? And that'll show up here. We can see I've activated on 2 computers, and I have 1 more activation. Do not activate 3 computers. Okay, you never know if a computer is going to take a lightning strike or a virus is going to kill it. Actually, the best recommendation I have is anything that's driving your business, and that means your creation of rhinestones, creating of digitizing on here, or ripping software from my printer. I do not want that computer on the internet, only because I can download a virus, by mistake. Anything I'm doing administration in, where I'm working QuickBooks or I'm working some kind of software like that, I need to do updates every now and then. So therefore, I'll log in the internet when I need to, download specifically what I'm trying to do, and then get off the internet. Okay, these are what's driving your business. If I can't create designs, that's a big paperweight. That's a paperweight, and so is that. Okay, but you all also want to keep 1 free activation pending. So if one computer does go down, while they're removing an activation from Sierra, so you can put it on, so you get that one back, you have another computer to install it on. So it usually takes about 7 to 10 business days before they roll back an activation. So you don't want to be down. I want to be able to get the computer, install the software, have 1 remaining activation plus 45 days. All right, and then go ahead and do it, and then run the software. Okay, any questions? Huh? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Everything that he's showing right now, our name says in Stitches, or it says my name, and it's got my, it's registered already.
Okay. Now, to start a new project, okay, there's several different ways we can do it. Number 1, we can go to the start icon. Their start icon is antithetical to where Windows puts it down here. Okay, this is your start icon for Windows, and this is the start icon for this software. We want to configure the software to work on our Windows system. So a couple of things you're going to do right off the bat after you install, you're going to go to Preferences, and you're going to go to Options and Preferences. Okay, now I'm going to go through these one at a time. Okay, in the general, okay, this is actually on start of application, we can choose whether to open up to the interaction screen if we select none, or we can open up a blank design. If I don't need to see the interaction screen, I just want to open up the software, and there we go. Get rid of that message. Okay. I can actually have it open up a blank design so I could bring in an image and convert it to stitches, okay? Or I can actually show a wizard. There is a wizard in here that will walk you step by step in what you need to do to create a design, okay? Which is good when you're first learning, okay? Normally I select none. As you become more skilled, you'll select none so you can actually see what interaction, what kind of updates are going to come, different things like that. Now, here it's create a backup. We want to create a backup. You never know if when you're creating a design, all of a sudden the power goes out. You didn't realize it, but your battery is starting to wear down on your computer. So therefore, it'll shut down. Well, you want a backup file so when you do start up your computer, the design comes right back up. Okay? And we want to enable an autosave feature in here. Autosave every 5 minutes, as I programmed here, it's going to automatically save what I've created within the last 5 minutes. Now, until you get more skill with the software, I want you to set this to 30, okay? Because you're not going to get a lot done in 30 minutes when you're first learning the software, okay? You got to build up your learning curve on this, and once you get more proficient with the software, then you can taper it down to 5. I can create a lot more information in 5 minutes than a beginner can do, in 30 minutes. So therefore, I tweak this down when I need it, okay? In 30 minutes, I've already blown past one design, started 2 more, and now I'd lost everything because I never backed up. So you customize that as needed, okay? I recommend 30 minutes. And then as you become more proficient, then increase the autosave based upon your proficiency. Units, US. Always want US, okay? Each one of these groups dictate a different size measurement which we can actually program. For instance, if I click on group 1, we can see that this unit is used in hoop size. It defines hoop sizes. Now, I travel back and forth between centimeters and inches on this, only because my hoops are marked in centimeters. So I can find out what hoop I need to pull to run the design I just created, okay? The other thing is image size. I define image sizes in inches. I don't define it in centimeters. So therefore, when I'm in creating the design, I'm bringing my image in, I make sure that group 1 is set to inches. When I'm done with the inches thing, and I'm ready to bring a hoop in to see what kind of hoop I need to use to set up on the machine, I'll go back in here and change it to centimeters so I can see what size hoop it will work with this design. Okay, and you'll see that when we create a design. Okay. Group number 2 is unit size in section nodes, distances, letter spacing, your kerning controls, points. I always think of like desktop publishing. Most people think in desktop publishing. You ever create a business card? Okay, letterhead. Your font was point sizes. Your spacing between letters is in points. How many points? Okay. So therefore, that's how I define it still. How many points, okay? Most of my spacing is done visually, you know what I mean? I'll bring letters closer together until they look right or further apart. Group number 3 is used in fonts. I think of fonts or text in inches. If I want a half-inch font, then I don't want to think about it, well, what is that in metric? 12.5 millimeters, you know what I mean? I want to think of that in inches. Okay, and you can set it to whatever you want, see? Millimeters, centimeters, meters, centimillimeters, yards, feet, inches, and points, okay? And I think you even have, decamillimeters, okay? So, inches. Most of your defaults here will work fine, okay? Group number 4 is used in stitch lengths, compensations parameters, like pull compensations, the width of the column, I think in points, okay? I always think of how wide that is, because if you think about when you're doing fonts in like word publishing or something like that, when you pick a 200-point font, it's a big, big, fat font, right? But if it's down to 10 points, it's a more narrow font. It's how bold it is. So you'll usually think of those things in points. Group number 5 is using density. I always think in how many stitches per millimeter I'm using, okay? I'm going to train you that way, so the default, you don't have to change it, okay? Group number 6 is density expressed in line spacing. That means how much density I have between lines of information. Okay, and you'll see that in when we create. Group number 7 deals with designed area and hoop area. I'm thinking about how many inches, because my ruler that I'm measuring, how big my design is probably going to be in inches, and when I take it to my hoop, I can see it. Okay, so I usually deal with inches there. Group number 8 is thread cone lengths. Okay, when you buy your thread cones, your king spools, they come in meters. Okay, 5,000 meters is a king spool. You just bought a bunch of them yesterday. Okay, so therefore, in my publishing, when I print my document, it'll tell me how many meters of thread I'm using in that design. So if I'm using more than 5,000, I know I need two cones of thread per head. Now that's a lot of designs, okay? Understand a meter's 3 feet. So 5,000 meters is, it's really nothing. That tiger design is probably going to cost me 8 cents to run. That's how much thread I'm using and oil and all my time, okay? Well, the time is the most. Okay? Now, you may want to set this for hotfix, okay? You have a hotfix one in here as well. Over here, you want to choose rhinestones, rhine studs, and nail heads. Make sure that's checked off. You don't need sequin, you don't need spangle, okay? You don't have those elements. You can't run them on a machine, okay? So just uncheck those. And show hotfix, add beads to palette when necessary. Make sure that these two are checked off, okay? That you're showing rhinestones, rhine studs, and nail heads, and add beads when necessary, to palette when necessary, okay? Nothing else you need to worry about here. It's going to sort it by color and sizes of stones, okay? Workspace general, okay? We want to show rulers in the workspace. Now, rulers are basically guidelines I could drag down into my workspace to line objects up with one another. So I do want to show those, okay? I don't like to use a large cursor. Large cursor puts a big X right in the middle of my screen, and wherever my mouse goes, that cursor moves. It's kind of like a digitizing tablet preview kind of thing that you used to get when you did them. I don't like that. Kind of makes up a lot of noise. Limits. The limits defaults are going to be 78.40 inches. That's about 5.5 feet. You don't have a 5.5 feet so, okay? Actually, your measurement on this is 419 millimeters by 439, okay? X and Y, okay? Left and right. So I got to figure out what that is divided by 25.4, and I'll get my inches, okay? We'll do that when we set up a hoop, okay? So we have width and height, okay? So I don't like to limit working areas to working. I don't like to limit working area to working limits. In other words, let's say I have a very small grid, and I have elements outside of my grid. If I check this off, I cannot grab them and bring them into my operating field, okay? Because it limits all my working to wherever the grid is. So I never check that off. Doesn't make sense to. And the visual aids, guidelines. If you like your guidelines to be maroon, set it to maroon. I like mine to be royal blue. Okay? That's when I bring a line down, which we'll do. You could also set guidelines anywhere on screen. No need to do that. I just drag them and drop them when I need them. But if I need one at 5 inches from the left and 4 inches down, I can do that right from here. And it'll set the guidelines right in there where I need it. Okay? Grid. Important one, okay? Number 1, position, below or after. Do you want the grid behind the object or in front of the object? If you're doing a flamingo, you want your flamingo in jail, you select after. Okay? I like my grid underneath my object, and my object's on top of the squares. Okay? The type of grid I like, you have anything from dots, plus signs, asterisks, solid lines, dotted lines. There's 2 dotted lines, one thick and one thin. I don't like the grid to be my focal point in creating design, okay? Too prominent of a grid, you lose focus in creating designs, okay? It just becomes more opaque than your design, okay? So I like to use a dotted line. The color of the grid, I like to use a gray. Now the gray is because my background's white, and the gray is kind of neutral color, and I'm not using it probably in the design. I've gone on some digitizing software that use pink and red. Now if I have red in my design, the grid kind of like loses where it's at because of the color of the design, so I use a neutral color. And I use like the dark gray. And you could choose anything under the rainbow, Okay, so I use a dark gray, not a light gray, because a light gray I can't really see it, but a dark gray I could see a little bit better. And I like my grid lines to be a 1/2 inch. So okay, you may want to do a 1/4 inch if your nature of your digitizing is doing small lettering. Then you probably want to do a 1/4 inch grid to make things line up on a 1/4 inch square. Okay, you're probably going to be doing more adult stuff. Okay, so I'm going to define my square blocks by a 1/2 inch. Okay, it just makes more sense. Okay, any questions so far? Pretty easy. Objects of rep, huh?
Just taking it all in.
Okay. Zoom, every time I stroke up on that wheel mouse, it goes in 30%. Every time I move back on that wheel mouse, it's 30% zoom out. Okay? And if you want to zoom in faster, you can set it to 50%, whatever you want. Do get a mouse, because glide pads are monotonous to use in digitizing. Okay? Definitely get a mouse, okay? And definitely get a wheel mouse. It does make zooming in and zooming out a lot easier. And if you are using a wheel mouse, make sure that's checked off, so it does recognize you do have a wheel on it. Auto scroll. In the design software, let me just open up a page here. We have what's called an auto scroll region. Now it's very narrow on mine. Okay, it's this gray area. See how my cursor changes from that to that, from a point to that. This is auto scrolling. Okay, so let me turn on my grid, and you can see what's going to go on here. When I come up here and I left click, see how I'm auto scrolling upwards? I'm panning upwards. And you have it on the sides too. Okay, I gotta go into the region and then just move my mouse to the left, and that allows me to move and pan over to here while being zoomed into my object. Okay, now I don't like to use that. It adds more time. It's a timing element thing. But if you want a bigger scroll region, you just make this number bigger. Okay, and now my panning region is much bigger, but it also truncated the viewable amount of screen I see. So I don't like to use that. Okay, there's another thing I do use instead of that. Okay, so this I just set to 10, so it's not even noticeable. Now I'm seeing maximize on my screen. Okay, but again, you can adjust that any way you want. How fast it moves is this, 80 pixels per second. If I change that to 150 or 1,000 pixels, it zooms pretty quickly once you're in that scroll region, okay? So I don't even mess with this, okay? Because I'm going to show you a better way of actually navigating your design screen without using those auto scroll regions, okay? Video card settings. On installation of the software, it recognizes how good your computer is. Based upon how good your computer is, it's going to assign an acceleration to your video card. The numbers are anywhere from 0 to 3, 0 being very poor, 3 being the best. The difference between this is, if I bring in a graphic, okay, and I'm set at a 0, you're going to see all that refreshing that's going on? See all that blinking? That's because my video card would be very bad. On installation, the software would recognize that I have a poor video card and assign a 0 or 1. And it won't have 2 or 3 on there for a choice for me. But you're limited to all that refreshing. And based upon your speed of your processor, it could blink, 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 and then finally finish. So if that's a computer that you have installed this on, you seeing that, got to upgrade your computer to something a little bit more, much better, okay? Now, yours is probably going to be fine because you do have a great graphics card. You have 16 gigabytes of RAM. And even though you have a 2.4 gigahertz processor, I think it'll be fine. When I go to 3 on that acceleration, when I move an object, it's immediate. See, no refreshing, okay? That's the video card accelerating the motion, keeping up with the placement of that, okay? So that's just something I check, okay? If it's below 3, then you probably want to upgrade your computer a little bit. It's always better to upgrade your computer than buy another one. It's pretty cheap. Under Create and Edit General, okay, this will be defaulted to Beziers. Now, Beziers I do not use. Let me show you why. If it is set to Beziers, and I'm actually doing stitches, okay, in order to do a curve, I got to click and then drag my mouse to shape the curve, okay? and it adds a lot of time to my creation, okay? Instead, if I just simply choose Preferences, Circle Arcs, everything is a curve, and I'm putting anchor points in to how it curves, okay? My mouse actually controls where that curve's at, okay?
So can we use this software for the direct-to-garment too?
No. No, it doesn't print a graphic file. It brings in a graphic file, and you convert that graphic file to a stitch file or a rhinestone file, unfortunately. Now, you're going to use CorelDRAW or Photoshop to edit your graphics that you get. They're your If you were a banner printer, you would use Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop or to get the color right, match things up against each other. You know what I mean? You could do the same thing with CorelDRAW. Okay. By the way, the difference between CorelDRAW and Adobe products, CorelDRAW already has a vector-based program called the Corel Graphics Suite, and you also have a rasterized program editor called the Corel Photo Paint. They're both embedded into one software. Okay. Photoshop only does rasterized images. You have no editing feature or creating features for vector. If I needed to deal with vectors, I would need Adobe Illustrator. Okay. So with CorelDRAW, you get both. The trade-off is the color gamut in CorelDRAW is not as strong as Photoshop. Photoshop has a much more defined dictionary. If you think about a dictionary of all the possible colors in the rainbow and all the colors in between, Photoshop expresses it much better than what CorelDRAW does. That's the trade-off. So color matching is always a problem with CorelDRAW. CorelDRAW is a tool that silk screeners use because it does color separations much better. The Pantone colors are basic, and I mix my inks to get the color I need on silk screening. I'm not expecting the RIP software to mix my inks, okay? It's kind of like digitizing. If I digitize poorly, my machine operates very poorly. Okay, a lot of the calls we get are not embroidery machine issues. Constant thread breaks, constant thread pullouts. Probably in the digitizing, especially if they're brand new. We can look at those different variables. You know, if I digitize with way too much density, way too many thread breaks. Not enough density, too many stitches far apart, and I can see my color of my shirt behind the stitches. So poor digitizing could mimic machine issues just as well as poor graphic software can mimic machine issues here. My reds are not coming out as strong. Well, you know, if you got a perfect nozzle check on the printer, all the nozzles are red at printing, then it's got to be the graphic. It's garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. Okay, so that's why I was telling you about Photoshop, because it has a much bigger and expansive color gamut to work from. It's a lot better program to use for that. But for this and this, CorelDRAW is all you need. Okay, especially when CorelDRAW is working hand in hand with your cutter. So. But let me qualify that. In this software, I do not need CorelDRAW. I could actually edit this graphic, convert it to a vector, all the things I normally have to use in CorelDRAW right from the environment of the digitizing software. Okay? I don't need CorelDRAW to work this software. Okay? All right. Moving on. So you want to set this to circle arcs, okay? The other thing you want to make sure checked off is auto-generate after editing and auto-generate after creation, okay? You want to check those on. I just unchecked them so you can see something here, okay? Let me delete this. Let's go ahead and do some text, okay? Let's go to embroidery. We'll do lettering. And let's go in stitches. N-S-T-I-T-C-H-E-S, okay? When I hit enter, it's no stitches. It's just a border of the stitches. In order to get them to generate, I got to click this lightning bolt here to process the stitches. And once I do that, process all. Stitches show up. I don't like to do that extra step. So if you go in your options and preferences and you check those two boxes off, now when we do lettering, N-S-T-I-T-C-H-E-S, no italicize. There we go. The stitches show up. Okay? It automatically generates them. By the way, what makes your software slow, crash a lot on bad computers, is because of the 3D nature that we have in here. Okay? You can see those stitches. Now the density is very bad. Okay? I got to increase density on here. But you can see that my stitches look like stitches. Okay? in the 3D graphic mode. When you have 3D graphic software, you need a good computer to run it and run it stable, okay? Okay, circle arcs, and make sure auto-generate after editing or addition, they call it, and auto-generate after creation, okay? Stitch generation, you don't have to worry about anything here. Anything else you don't have to adjust, okay? Stitch blocks or snaps or sounds. I mean, you can customize sounds. Every time you create a design, it go bling. You just choose the audio file, and it'll play that, okay, if that's your jig. Okay, so the only things you have to do, realistically, I just went through all of them. The only thing you really have to do is in the general, set your autosave frequency to 30 minutes for now, okay? You're going to go to hotfix and make sure you have rhinestone, rhinestud, and nail heads for the CAMS machine turned on. Turn off Spangle, and make sure you can add beats when necessary. In the workspace limits, okay, you can keep that whatever it is, default, whatever it is. I'm going to show you how to use hoops in order to generate how big your design is, okay? Your grid, you're going to set your grid. You're going to select the setting position below. That puts the grid behind the embroidery, okay? Choose your style. I always use line 1 because it is a subtle grid. I can see it, but it's subtle. It doesn't take up the largesse of my visual, how I'm perceiving my design. The color, I use a neutral color that's offset from the black background, okay, from the white background. And if I change my background color to black, I still see gray. So I could change the color background, okay? And set your separations to 1/2 inch. Since you're primarily dealing with adults, you're going to do 1/2 inch there, okay? The next thing you're going to do is just look at your video card setting. Make sure it's set it to 3. If it didn't set it to 3, think about upgrading your computer to something a little bit more enhanced and help you, be able to be proficient in creating designs. In the under CreateNet, under General, make sure you change Bezier to circle arcs. It will be set to Bezier, okay? And make sure this is checked off, auto-generate after addition, and auto-generate after creation. And that's all you need to do to configure the software.